Well, I got that in early. Almost there.
Hey Charlie, I had a question.
Good.
So for the practicum coming up for the cat, um, are the pictures you're gonna show, are those gonna be the ones you've been showing us in class with the cadaver, or are they gonna be like the extra credit questions where it was like the human, but it was like cartoon, you know what I mean? Like a diagram version?
I'm not going to use any diagrams. I'm going to use photos.
Yeah,
And
but you know, like the extra credit questions you had us do with the human, and it was like,
oh, the one I had you do.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, those are, I looked at those discussion uh, put togethers for the muscular system you guys did. They're great. They're really good. And if you haven't gone back to look at them, there may be quite a few that have been added since you were there. I think you can learn from them quite well. But I'm not going to use those. I'm not going to put them on the test. No. And I'm not going to use diagrams at all.
Okay, so is the cat muscles when you ask the questions, are they going to be like a real cat cadaver, or is it going to be like what you just?
It's going to be a real cat.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Okay. Well, time-wise, we should get started. We got our 25. So we started talking now, she just got here, about the test on Thursday, which is exactly what I wanted to do anyway. Uh, the test itself, I've compared our test because I see the other ones from the other classes. I've compared our test with theirs. Uh, Very similar. Uh, they're doing a little bit different. First off, they're not using cats at all. I had you study the cats, and I'm not going to take that away. That would be a waste of time if I went the way of the other instructors, and it's just as legitimate, I feel. But I'm not going to have many cat pictures. I'm going to have, right now I have about 13, I think I'm going to have 15 questions that use actual cats. And they will have a structure identified. And then in the text below the picture, it'll say name, the muscle, or it might say name the origin or the insertion, and often it will say name the action. Okay, that's for the cats. What about the human models? That's the majority of the test. That's become the majority of the test. You studied them anyway. Uh, of those human models, the most important, if I were trying to schedule my study time, are the first 48 that are on our list. Our list still corresponds to, to the labeled structures, and the first 48. But does that mean none from the rest? Oh no, it doesn't mean that at all. Okay, you do want to get them all under your belt, but the first 48 are highly represented. Uh, the uh, most of the questions ask name the muscle. Okay, well, on a plastic model, the muscle should show pretty well. These are new pictures. You haven't seen them before, but you've seen the model, so you've seen the material before. There's not going to be a problem with that at all. Please don't worry about that. There are many questions that say name the muscle, and then looking at the other a couple of other instructors test, you open up the question, it says name the muscle, and there's 20 names to pick from. Well, I, that's ridiculous to me. Don't pass that along. I shouldn't say that. If you know the muscle, you know the muscle. I don't care if there's 40 names to pick from. The more names that there are, the longer it takes me, though, to find the correct name, and I already know it, so I'm just wasting time, and the test is flying by me. So I've cut down on those. Where it says name the muscle, I usually have 5 or 6 to choose from, because you either know it or you don't, and why waste 3 times as much time looking for the correct answer to bubble. Okay so far?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, there are a few that say give me the origin, and it doesn't name the muscle. It assumes that you can name the muscle. And now what is the origin? Same thing for the insertion. But the majority of the rest of the questions that pertain to the models are give me the action. Now, I don't care, again, if you use the cat sheet, the condensed sheet, the human sheet that I gave you. All of the actions on all of those sheets are identical. And the answers are identical as well if you pick the right one. I think this is probably the hardest part of the test. For some muscles it won't be, but when you get to the leg muscles, is it abduct or adduct? And often it does 2 or 3 things. So you've got to pick the right one. I would, if I felt uncomfortable with those yet, I felt I needed to study them some more, I would be sure to be reading what the muscle does, what's its action, and then performing that action as I read it. And don't skip over it lightly. If it says abduct, do it. Realize that that's moving it away from the center of the body, okay? And then if it says, and also uh, flexes the thigh, well, then it's going to pull my leg up as well. Do it, and think it through on each part, and I think then you'll do quite well. There are some obvious choices offered to you that couldn't possibly be the answer. I mean, they're there to catch the person who just doesn't know that at all. And I don't think we have people like that in our class. But I didn't make this test up, but I certainly have adjusted it. I've only gotten 2/3 of it finished, and that's fine. I got plenty of time. I'll have it ready for you at 2 o'clock. You'll be able to start as late as 2:15 or so. I'll send you a message. And now, don't forget some of the oddball questions. Okay. Uh, what's an antagonist to, for instance, um, the vastus lateralis? Okay, and then there would be multiple choice underneath. And you better be looking for vastus medialis. Okay? If it didn't come to mind right away now, well, then you have something to study. Okay. Uh, so there are just a couple though of antagonism and synergism type questions. Don't forget the diaphragm. Don't forget that we called it the prime mover of respiration. Okay? And don't forget that it's innervated by the phrenic nerve. I explained to you how that crazy question got on the test from the physiologists years ago. They want to see it there. Fine. We know it's there. We know it's coming. We're going to get it right. Okay. I'm just sort of thinking to myself if what else I might put in there. Uh, no, no. This test is. Uh, I hope from what I've just said, you have a picture in your mind of what it's going to look like. Mostly plastic models. I think there are 2 or 3 pictures of a cadaver in there. You will definitely know the muscle, whether it's a cadaver or a plastic model. Right now, there are 13. I'm trying to get it up to 15 using a cat, a few stray type questions, I call them. For instance, uh, I might list the muscles of the quadriceps, but not put in one. There's 4 quadriceps, obviously quad. So I list 3 of the quadriceps, and I might ask you, what's the missing quadricep? And you would pick it from a list. Okay. I don't think there's anything that's going to be surprising to the person who studied. I think it's going to be hell for the person who really didn't get to it. I'm concerned a little bit about people who, if you try to take this exam on an iPhone, right at the start of the class, it says, don't do that. Borrow a laptop if you can. Even a tablet's better. But if you just try a smartphone, you probably have difficulty. Also, a couple of people had difficulty on the first practicum in getting the pictures to load. They were loading. There's going to be 100, well, and a couple of word questions, so about 95 images, and they're all going to try to load as soon as you open the test. And so they'll come down, you get a 95th on the first test, first question, a little piece at the top of the second question, if you've got slow internet. If you've got slow internet, it will eventually get down there to take care of you. I will tell you where the text questions are, the ones like the quadriceps question, and that way, if you have slow internet, you can go right to those. get started as you wait for your pictures to come up. Uh, I'm going to pick on somebody. Sorry, Nikki. How long did it take the pictures to come up for you on lecture test practicum one?
Probably about 10 minutes for all of them.
Okay, and once they were up, they stayed up, right?
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, but it's 10 minutes of agony, you know, and it was, and for me too. I think you wrote me, and I was searching for the answer to your problem. So check
Yeah,
their
always
internet
good.
speed if you can. I've had trouble with Cox, and but
That's who I
hoping it's
have.
okay. Yeah, it's always when there's a problem with internet, you go to Best Buy and they tell you it's Cox. Okay, so you know what you could do? Go back to the first test. Anybody who had slow images, uh, go back to the first test. Uh, you probably refreshed your browser a number of times, or you can use a different browser. If you're using Chrome, you can switch to Firefox or something, and try to load the first test and see how long it takes to load the first test, because that's what's going to happen on Thursday. Now, for me, I mean, I don't know how I got so lucky. I hit the button and wham, they're there, you know. And many of you I know don't have a problem either. But it's very image intense. Okay. I thought possibly I would break the test into two parts, and you would go and work on one and then the other, so that we could speed up the downloading of the images. But okay, something to think about. Go ahead and try to do practicum one again. Bring it up and see how it works.
Okay, we'll do.
It says it's muted for me.
Say it again, Angelo.
It says it's muted for me.
No, you are muted.
No, for like I can't see like all of the test questions in the practicum.
Oh, you're already trying to do number one? Are you trying to upload number one?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I misunderstood you.
Okay. Uh, right now, I have taken some things down just to make space. You know, our list of modules is getting crazy, and I sort of took some things down. And if there's anything you want back up, uh, especially by the final, just let me know. Okay. Any
Hey,
other
Charlie.
questions? Yes.
Yes. It won't. Yeah, for what Angel was saying, it won't let me go to practicum one. It just says that the assignment's muted.
I have the same problem.
Okay. Well, you know, I can fix assignment one, but I'm not going to do it now. Okay. That was a suggestion for you to do later. Okay. And you'll be able to. Okay. L1. No, I'm sorry. P1. Practical exam one. Uh, uh, I'll look at it later. I'm not worried about that at all. Okay. But we got to worry about one other thing first, and that's practical exam 2 on Thursday. Okay. I'm going to again start you off. Well, I think I'm going to not start you off. I'm just going to give you 70 minutes. 70. You don't need 120 like in a normal class, because you don't wander around. You don't have to wait in line or anything like that. Okay. The questions will all be available. Uh,
Wait, how many questions is it?
100.
Okay, in 70 minutes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's normally 180 minutes. But like I said, you don't have to walk around. You don't walk around the room. You don't have to go and look over somebody's shoulder or try to get in there. That's plenty of time. Okay. Any other questions about the test?
Oh, no.
Has anybody taken the test where it advances one question at a time? In other words, you get the first question, you answer it, and then it gives you the second question. I was thinking of doing that in order to get the images up real quick, because that would certainly work. But I just don't like the idea, because then if I want to go back, what do I have to do? Click my way all the way back from the question 68 to 23? That's just not desirable.
Yeah, I always find that it just takes longer to take tests like that.
Okay, you have taken them, Ryan.
Yeah, you just have to click a bunch more.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. We got through the first one nicely, even with slow internet. If I can, maybe we don't have slow internet now. Nikki, do you ever do a speed test on your browser?
I don't, but I live with my boyfriend's an architect, so I think he was on the internet at the same time, so I think that was causing problems.
That can do
Wasn't
it.
as fast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can do it. Okay,
that won't happen this time.
okay. Got rid of the boyfriend?
John, I'm still here. I'm not asleep yet. I'm still here.
Oh, I know. Did you just wake up again? Okay. Okay, so
I'm
another
still
question.
awake. Still awake.
Other questions about the test? That's our first goal. Okay, the material that we're going to look at today is not going to take us that long. Both the lecture and the lab. I'm sure we're going to finish it very quickly, which leaves you time, if you want to use it for study, to ask me questions, because I stick around until the last person's gone. That's okay. But here's the deal. I'm looking at lecture exam 2. You're not thinking about that one yet, but it's 2 weeks from Thursday. 2 weeks from Thursday. Okay. My Sam, no. Answer your question. The heart diagram is not going to be on there. What's going to be on the practicum is muscles only. Only the muscles. Okay. There could be the photographs of the muscles. You can get those off of the website. You can get them out of the lecture, which is skeletal muscle, which is smooth muscle, which is cardiac muscle. You could always expect that to be on the exam. But what I was getting at here is that our next lecture exam is 2 weeks from Thursday. We have already passed the material that will be covered on that exam. Okay. We are way ahead. Now, how'd I get ahead? Well, one, we didn't have a holiday like the other classes. 2, when I don't have to draw it on the board, which I'd rather do actually, when I don't draw it on the board, but paste an image in for you to see immediately, it goes faster. Everything seems to go faster. But I can't believe how far ahead I am. So after next Tuesday, a week from today, we will have a lab, but then when that ends, instead of just you go home and review the lab, turn off the computer, review it later, and something like that. I'm going to have a review session over the material for the exam L2. And I'm going to do it the next day. And I'm going to do it the next day. That's how much time we have to review. So if you want to stay for that, great. I think probably about half the class would stay. And I'll start with the digestive system, go through it, and you pick up, of course, on my tone of voice as to what's really important, and the boldface type tells you. And then we'll go to the urinary system and the respiratory system and the integumentary system. You know, I don't want to present the whole class twice. That's not the idea here. So we'll go through it fairly fast, but we'll answer questions that you have going towards L2. So we're just so far ahead. I can't even figure out how we did that. Okay. Questions the last time about the test? Thursday. Okay. Okay, you seen the three guys?
Yes.
sir.
Okay, just want to be sure we got it done. I don't like this picture, by the way, but this summer we had to construct a page. We had to put an image in, and I went to Flickr. I went everywhere. I ended up getting this one. I'll keep it so we all know where we're at. Okay, we need to go to modules. Way now. Just back to last week for a second. Some of my thoughts. Here was the shaved down muscle-less shade by origin and insertion. Okay, but the actions are all there and all complete. Okay. This is the one though that is acceptable. And if I ask you for an origin, an insertion, and or an action, the correct answer will be to bubble the exact wording that you see here for each one. I'm not going to change it. It could be worded many ways, but it's going to be letter for letter. Okay, discussion for this week. I won't open it up and take our time. The discussion does not exist for this week. I want you to study. So there's no discussion this week. The assignment for this week, if you open it up, it will tell you finish up chapter 19, and it's due on the 19th. Okay, so that's easy. Here are the review terms for L2. I'm giving them to you early, okay, for lecture exam 2. And it starts where we left off, at mechanical digestion, the digestive system. There are a lot of terms here. We covered all of that, and yet we covered a lot more already. We've already covered more. You won't see respiratory system on here, I don't believe. Yes, there's some. No, that's all heart. Anyway, here's a place that you can get the terms. If I need to add or subtract, we've got 2 weeks to do that. Okay. I don't know if you took the, I didn't, I can check, of course, but I haven't looked to see if you've taken the heart quiz yet. Okay, so if you haven't, you should get that one done before you get the material. That should help you. Okay, here's the lecture for today. Fetal circulation and a vertebra model. What the hell does that have to do with muscles? Well, there's only 4 lab sections, 4 lab modules to speak of, and there's like 20 different lecture modules. So we can't make them coordinate all the time. But I'm going to go over fetal circulation because it ends up with the circulatory system that we've been talking about. This can be found in your book. Every book seems to have it on a different page.
Oh.
I need a little touch up here on dates, but it's the material that you get tested on. Okay, this is the circulatory pathways in an adult, okay, and it's listed here as newborn. When you're newly born, you don't change anymore. This is also then the adult. While you're in the womb, this is your circulatory system over here, and it's for the fetus. See if I can go one more. Okay, that helps. We'll start with the fetal circulation. The blood is oxygenated at the placenta. Deoxygenated blood will return to the placenta as well. The oxygenated blood travels in the umbilical cord through this dark red structure, which is the umbilical vein. Now here's a vein that's oxygenated. Why is it a vein then? Because it's going back to the heart. Anything going to the heart is a vein. So here it is. What's twisted around it, sort of Barber Polish, is the other part of the umbilical cord, the umbilical arteries, and they're going away from the heart. But back on track, the umbilical vein brings oxygenated blood, goes in through the navel, the belly button, which is right here, goes up and goes through the kidney, through the liver, all the way through and empties into the vena cava, the inferior vena cava. This is a shunt, a bypass, a shortcut through the liver. It's called the ductus venosus. Okay. Now, if you've already been able to find this in your book, every edition, they change the drawing somewhat. Yours probably won't look like mine. So you can just follow mine for the time being, and then get your book out later. We will go over it again. Here's the ductus venosus. It goes into the inferior vena cava and then follows a normal trail into the right atrium, coming out here, joining the blood coming from the superior vena cava. One thing I don't like about the drawing, and I don't want you to be confused by it, is when this deeply red oxygenated blood hits the vena cava, it should at least turn it pink. They have completely ignored the fact that oxygenated blood is going in. It's partially oxygenated in any event right now. Okay, the blood enters into the right atrium. It can go through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. Nothing unusual about that part. And out through the pulmonary semilunar valve and the pulmonary trunk. But the pulmonary trunk, we know, goes left and right to the lungs by pulmonary arteries. But while you're a fetus, there's a special connection, a larger one in fact. From the pulmonary trunk, it goes straight into the aorta. See where it's going? It's going right into the aorta. And where it hits the aorta and brings oxygenated blood with it, it's already past the point where these vessels that we named before will take the blood to the head and arm. It's already below that, and the blood now goes to the lower part of the body. Goes to all of the organs, and then it will return by way of the vena cava. Sort of normal pathways. One exception, this vessel here, which you'll later on learn is the internal iliac artery. Don't worry about that now. It has a vessel coming off, and so does the other one, and the two wrap together. These are the umbilical arteries returning, even though they're not completely deoxygenated. They're still returning to pick up more oxygen from the placenta. Okay, let's go back to the heart. We've got to get blood to the head and the arm. And the way we do that is that we take the blood in the right atrium from wherever it came. It's recharged, somewhat oxygenated from the blood coming in from the ductus venosus. But now there's an opening, goes across. There's an opening between the two atrial walls. That opening is called the foramen ovale. Now, we had that word before in the skeletal system, but the foramen ovale here is an opening, and the blood, in part, goes into the left atrium, and in part it goes to the right ventricle. We just followed that route. Here's the left atrium receiving blood from the foramen ovale, goes through the mitral valve, out through the pulmonary semilunar valve, and this is oxygenated blood now. And it goes up, and a portion of it will go out through any of these three vessels: the brachiocephalic, left common carotid, and left subclavian. Not all of it will. The rest of it will follow down to the lower part of the body. What we're doing here is not completely, but at least partially bypassing the lungs. The lungs do not need any more oxygen than just enough to keep them satisfied. They're not doing the breathing that will happen in the newborn. We get blood to the lower part of the body here and to the upper part of the body here. All of the blood returns by means of the placenta or umbilical cord to the placenta. The umbilical arteries, these two, they take all the blood out. The umbilical vein brings all the blood in. Okay, once you're born, 4 main things happen. The ductus venosus that we started with here becomes the ligamentum venosum. It collapses. It no longer conducts anything. It collapses. The ductus arteriosus, I didn't name that. That's the shunt from the pulmonary trunk into the aorta. The ductus arteriosus also collapses and becomes the ligamentum arteriosum. Every model that we have in the lab and we have online will show remnants of this collapsed ligamentum arteriosum because it persists all your life. The foramen ovale, the hole between the openings. The foramen ovale closes and becomes known as the fossa ovalis. If it doesn't close completely, you may have a problem. If there's a pinhole, or a little bit larger than that even, a small opening between the two atria in the newborn, it will be a small opening in you as an adult. But it still works. It still works. You're probably not going to win a 100-yard dash at any point with this hole, because it does shortchange you a little bit. Most of us don't have that hole. We have the fossa ovalis. If the fossa ovalis stays open, then the newborn could not survive more than a day or two. The demand for oxygen or oxygenated blood is going to be too high, and it's just not going to be coming unless that gets fixed. And then you have heart surgery on a newborn to fix the valve, the leaky valve. It's not actually a valve, but they call it that, the fossa ovalis. What else happens? The umbilical cord is lost. The whole umbilical cord is lost. That includes, of course, the umbilical arteries and the umbilical vein. There's 5 things listed here, but I've given you the 4 main ones. Of these, only one change takes place in the heart, and that's here, the foramen ovale, becoming the fossa ovalis. Okay, we have plenty of time to come back to this guy. Here's the second portion of this, the vertebrae model. This model is of a cervical vertebra. You're going to see it in a moment. I'm not going to spend much time on it because, like I said, we're so far ahead. but I feel like I've got to use some of the time up here. Okay, these are all terms you'll learn. Let me just get down to the model. Okay, so we're looking at it from the top down, of course. The posterior of the model is at the top of your screen. This is the spinous process. We know it's a cervical vertebra because it's bifid, fish-tailed, sort of split in two. It's not labeled, doesn't need to be, but the vertebral foramen is here, and the spinal cord is going through. The transverse foramina are here and over here. You recall that only the cervical vertebra have these transverse foramina. And we'll be learning what goes through these things. Well, the spinal cord is the connection between the peripheral nervous system and the central nervous system. Peripherally, that's kind of hard to say. You have input of pain, heat, pressure, and if you have any of those sensations, they come in this way. They come in from way off the screen here. They come in from the peripheral nerves. They come in, and the first thing they're going to pass is right there, the swollen portion. It's over here too, but covered. This is the dorsal root ganglion. I could hit you with a lot of terms right now that we're going to do later, and I think that would be kind of meaningless. But I just want to get this picture out of the way. Okay, here's the dorsal root ganglion. Here's the dorsal root extending from it. Incoming stimuli are coming in dorsally, and they get to the dorsal part of the spinal cord. This whole thing is the spinal cord. They come into the spinal cord at this structure here, which is mirrored on the other side, and it's the dorsal horn. Some people see this as a set of moose antlers. Some others can see it as a butterfly. I'm an antler person. Here's the dorsal horn. From the dorsal horn, the stimulus can actually go into this area here called white matter. If it does, it will then go to the brain and back down the white matter and enter back into the dorsal horn and transfer to the ventral horn. The antlers are considered to be gray matter. The surrounding material is white matter. Gray matter is slow. Transmission is slow. We have gray matter areas in our brain called nuclei, and anything gets in there, it moves slowly. Well, those are areas we believe where we're thinking. Okay? When we have just a quick reaction to something, it doesn't have to go into the gray matter. It will enter the horn, though, and that's gray matter. And it gets over to the ventral side, and it leaves. Now I need to come over here. Here's where it leaves. Sensory information comes in through the dorsal root. motor information or commands come in out through the ventral root. And here's the ventral root here. It's not enlarged like the dorsal root ganglion, and it leaves here. This little guy here is a spinal nerve. If you remember the vertebra, when you looked at them from the side, there was always a gap, and you wondered what went through that. This is what goes through. Dura mater is one of the 3 layers that protects all of this stuff inside. It's here, it's over the dorsal root, and the dorsal root ganglion, over the ventral root, all of this on the outside here, and covering here. This is the dura mater. Dura mater translates into tough mother, and it is the tough layer, the toughest layer. This little structure that I'm circling, now we tilt this away, and it's down here. This is a sympathetic trunk ganglion. Nothing that you have to know today, but you'll be dreaming about the sympathetic trunk ganglia right towards the end of the semester. Okay. This would have been, or is, our lab for today. But you're going to find, I think you're going to find it's fairly easy compared to some of the other stuff we had. Practicum number 3, where this material will show up. Practicum number 3, and we haven't even had 2 yet. We're so damn far ahead. Practicum number 3 will have lots and lots of material. And it will seem maybe like it's overwhelming amount of material, but it's not difficult material. Okay. We're looking at the ear first. Okay. Many of you can name the outer portions of the ear better than I can. Here's the pinna. This whole thing is the pinna. What's the name of that part? I know some of you know it. Tragus. Okay. I see people with earrings shoved through it. Needles shoved through. Okay. They usually know. Here's the auditory canal. Or you can call it the acoustic canal. I like auditory. Goes back to the eardrum. The eardrum is properly called the tympanum. Here they've called it the tympanic membrane. That's fine. Its function is to vibrate, of course, receive sound, and transmit the sound to the middle ear, where you have the 3 bones that we learned, the malleus, incus, and stapes. Where the stapes touches this ball, okay, this swollen portion or rounded portion is the vestibule. It contains fluid, semicircular fluid, that moves into these canals. There's a set of 3 because with 3 points we can orient anything. The semicircular canals fill or partially fill with semicircular fluid from the vestibule as you tilt your head. You can have your eyes closed and know if you're standing, leaning right, leaning left, usually anyway. These are the semicircular canals, and they are functioning for equilibrium. This snail-like looking structure is the cochlea. It's inside the cochlea that the sound is interpreted or received. You've got this threesome of ossicles bumping on the vestibule, sending sound into the cochlea. From the cochlea, we need to get to the brain. Here's the nerve for that, the cochlear nerve. From the vestibule, there's another nerve. It comes and joins. It becomes what we call the vestibulocochlear nerve, or the 8th cranial nerve. We'll be learning all the cranial nerves soon. So although it's composed of 2 pathways, it really shares just one name, or number 8. This long tube here enters into your nasopharynx. So you can't look at it in the mirror. This tube is to equalize the pressure on both sides of the tympanum. The tube is called the eustachian tube. You've all had the experience, I know, of going up a hill in a car or something, and then your ears pop. And they pop on the way down too. That's because the pressure of the air surrounding you is changing as you go up or down. And inside, if this thing is closed, or you've got your mouth closed for the most part, even your nose won't help out much. You get a difference in pressure between the 2 sides. And if that happens, you'll get a bulge on one side or the other of the tympanic membrane. The bulge causes distortion of sound. So when your ears pop, don't you hear better? Just for a while anyway. If you're sort of on the sadistic side, you can go up the Palm Springs aerial tramway. Going up is a piece of cake. Coming down, oh, it's ear-popping city. You chew a piece of gum, get yourself ready for this when it comes down. And the other people who don't know that that's what's going to happen, some of them start screaming because their ears just hurt like hell. They can't pop their ears. And they eventually do, of course. But best part of the tramway ride.
Hey Charlie, I need to leave actually. It's a pretty important they're coming back to work right now.
You don't have to tell me. I appreciate it, but I mean, you don't have to tell me. Okay? Have a good time.
It's not gonna be a good time. It's not for good reasons. Thank you though.
Okay, well, take
Thanks,
care.
Charlie.
and never good reasons. How many of you have been to a doctor since the lockdown in, was it February, March? In person?
I have.
I have.
I have.
Me.
Yeah. Okay, 4, 5. How many have had virtual meetings?
In the beginning, it was virtual.
I had for my son.
Okay. Well, I didn't want to go to the doctor anyway. I mean, I was going to the doctor. It seemed like every time they keep wanting you to come. Come on, maybe we'll find something really expensive to do. You know, I don't want to keep going there. But I finally went to one, which I had. Told me I need a total knee replacement. Oh, great. So I'm having a total knee replacement on the day before your final. Okay, but don't worry, your final will be set up and ready to go before that happens. It just will probably take a couple of days to get the anesthetic off before I assign your grades. I don't want to make a mess of anything like that. Okay, the brain. Here are the structures of the brain that you're going to be, whoa, what happened there? You're going to be responsible for these. They're not that difficult. I'll show them to you, realizing that you're not going to remember this right now. So since you're not going to remember it, I'm just going to go through it fast. Spinal cord, here. The swollen part above it is the medulla oblongata. And then the swollen part above that is the pons. Here for smell are the olfactory lobes. They sit right on top of the cribriform plates. The cerebrum, area for higher thought, and the cerebellum is back here, the older brain, has more rudimentary but necessary functions like respiration. The pituitary gland is underneath. It's been removed from the forward brain. Here's the pituitary gland. And, okay. This will all be, well, it's posted now. But here's a section right down the middle of the brain. And this is the cerebellum. It looks like there's a tree in it, or a bush. And that's called the arborvitae. Arborvitae, meaning living plant. Arborvitae of the cerebellum. Over here, there's a hole, or cavernous hole. This side, it's not been slit open. This is a lateral ventricle, holding cerebral spinal fluid. The cerebral spinal fluid actually runs through the brain to another holding area you cannot see, and to this area here, the slit, called the fourth ventricle. These ventricles in the brain all hold cerebral spinal fluid. That's continuous with the fluid in the spinal cord itself. If If I go to the end of this structure here, which should have been labeled, oh, it is, corpus callosum, the calloused body, the rough body. Corpus callosum is this entire structure that surrounds the lateral ventricle. If I go to the end of it, drop off, I find the pineal gland, also known as the pineal body. The pineal gland secretes melatonin and is responsible for our sleep cycle. Behind that, between the cerebellum, and the pineal gland is the corpora quadrigemina. In the middle, there's a circular area, looks like a small scallop. That's the thalamus. And below the thalamus, right here, is an area we call the hypothalamus. There's no structure to point at. No structure at all. But the hypothalamus is probably considered by most to be the seat of the autonomic nervous system. And it's going to be very important to us in the last month and a half that we have. Okay, different picture, different lighting, same material. Here's the corpus callosum. Here's the lateral ventricle. Here's the thalamus, the pineal body, the corpora quadrigemina, the cerebellum, the fourth ventricle, spinal cord, medulla, pons. Very clear. You'll be expected to know the functions of the parts of the brain. They're listed here. They're also on the website. We next and finally look at the eye. The lens never holds up in this model. There's three tunics or layers. The white one out here is the toughest one. It really contains everything. It's the sclera. Here's the tag for it, sclera. Then the bluish color all the way around. It's being shown better here because this final structure has been removed. The blue is the choroid coat. And if this is red or tan?
Red.
It's red.
Okay, the red portion is the retina. Okay, and that of course is what perceives the stimuli, the light coming in. When the light goes through the retina, that retina is paper thin. It's probably thinner than paper. And the light that isn't absorbed immediately would tend to bounce back. And you'd have a light show going on in your two orbits. We don't want that. We want a clear image. We want the retina to absorb the light waves that are appropriate for it, but then behind it is the choroid coat like a black screen, and it absorbs everything else. Yeah. So you get a much nicer picture because of that. Here's the retina. It sends its information out through the optic nerve. The optic nerve is here, probably shows better in a moment. And where the optic nerve meets the retina in the eye, right here, you have your blind spot. You can't see anything there. The blind spot is called the optic disc. Here's the name over here. The optic disc. Okay. The pupil of the eye is not a structure. It's not a structure. It's the area that light passes through. It can contract, it can expand, we know that, but the light passes through the area where there's no structure. The iris is the colored portion of your eye. The iris diaphragm, sometimes it's referred to as, but the iris is the structure that contracts and expands to change the shape of the pupil and the amount of light that gets in. The crystalline lens, of course, is knocked out of place. We have here in the posterior cavity, this is the posterior cavity. Anything in front of the lens is the anterior. We've got a sort of a serrated area, and then we've got an area below that. On this model, in this picture, they're not very distinguishable. I have models that I can get pictures of for you where it's more better to see. The ora serrata, okay, and the ciliary body, what do they do? The ciliary body holds on to the lens, and the ciliary body contracts. It's a muscle. The ciliary body contracts and changes the shape of the lens. So that when you're reading a book, and somebody comes in the room and you look up at them, you have to change your focus. And that means you have to change the shape of the lens. And you do that by means of the ciliary body. Okay? When you reach about 40 years old, you may find yourself going for a pair of reading glasses just off the shelf. Well, once you start that, and you may have to anyway, once you start that, you will probably need them for the rest of your life. The lens hardens up. It's not easily pulled or distorted by the ciliary body. The ora serrata has a strange function. It doesn't do anything. The ora serrata has light coming in from the sides here. I'm not coming straight in. I'm light coming in from the side. And I hit the ora serrata. I don't hit the retina. And the ora serrata absorbs it. The ora serrata absorbs your lateral and medial light.
I just have a quick question, Charlie.
Sure.
If you can go back to the eye diagram really quick.
This one?
No, the one that you just passed. Yeah, that one. So the ciliary body is the one that like dilates and constricts your pupil.
No, that's the iris.
So what does the ciliary body do?
Okay, the ciliary body, right where the pointer is, see it right here? There's an edge to it. That lens fits in this area here. And it's attached to the ciliary body right here and to the lens right here. Okay, so when this contracts, the ciliary body, when it contracts, it will change the shape of the lens. The lens is flexible still. So, and that allows you to see close, then far, then, close again, and keep looking around.
Okay, yeah. So it's responsible for the lens.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. There's some review stuff here. On the heart, you've had this. It's just review. So tired of the telephone. I have to leave it plugged in today, but don't have to answer it. Okay, I've got a question for you. We're not sharing anymore. We're just here. I've been teaching at Saddleback 45 years, and 32 of those were full-time. And there was a time part-time before that, and part-time now, because I still enjoy it, you know. But one of the reasons I retired was to get rid of all the bullshit. I said that word before and somebody had a fit. Sorry about that. No more
It's okay.
committees, no committees, you know. Uh, no politics. Oh, there's politics. Oh God, there's politics everywhere. And it seemed like over the 32 years I was full-time, I was every year being pulled into things like the academic senate and the curriculum committee and everything, and department chair, spending less time on teaching, you know, or with the teaching. So I gladly retired finally, and but the condition I made with them, and they didn't have to hold up to it, but they did, was that I would be brought in part-time for the one class. Okay, well, that's pretty smart. I still get, I'm not trying to rub anything in here. I get my pension, I get my salary. I had two salaries now. Okay, so, and I enjoy this. But they still think they want to evaluate. Okay, so I'm due for an evaluation. Big deal. How many evaluations have I had in 45 years? One of the things in the evaluation is student evaluation. I don't know if that's going to involve you or not. And I'm supposed to go and receive a package of student evaluations, okay, and put it in my portfolio. The guy writes me today, my department chair now, and he would like to have the portfolio first. But it says he wants the student evaluation portion, and I have not received it. Okay, so when I get off of the computer here and get to another page, I'll write him and see what's going on. See, the strange thing is they do they do evaluations online. Have you ever been asked to do one of those?
Yeah, I get an email.
Yeah, you get an email and you know what happens to those?
No, but I'm curious.
I'll tell you exactly what happens to those evaluations.
Spam mail?
No,
Sell
no.
your information to third parties.
Okay, the evaluations they ask for at the end of the semester, and they send it to you, and you send it in. This started up about 4 years ago, I think, to doing it that way. Those evaluations are compiled. First, it was by paper, and then it was by electronic, and they are sent to the instructor to read or not read, to cherish or to trash. Doesn't make any difference whatsoever. I don't know who yours went to, of course, but it may end up right in the trash can. So I hope you didn't spend a lot of time on it. There's no requirement that the instructor even reads them, which he should if he wants to learn something. You know, no requirement that they be read, unless you're in your first 6 years of full time tenure track, they call it. If you're in tenure track, they count, and they want you're going to have to respond and answer to all of them. But to all the rest of these, they could be going nowhere. Okay, I had one I opened up once. Uh, uh, well, and read them, and I thought that they show a graph and things like that. How you doing, supposedly? I said, this didn't help me. This didn't help me at all. Oh well, they want it. They wanted me to have it, so I acknowledged I got it, and that was the end of that. So I would, when my class would ask me, and somebody in the class always did ask, you know, about the valuations, I would tell them the truth, and I'd tell them just what I told you. The better way, unfortunately, I mean, I never would have done it before, but if you want your evaluation to count, if you want your evaluation to be read, if you want your evaluation to be helpful to other students who will or will not take a particular instructor based upon what you say, well then send it in to rate my professors. Okay, I'm not a proponent for them. I'm not a sponsor for them or anything like that. But you get a lot of answers that way. Used to. Now that they sent these things out electronically to the students, and the students think they mean something, they're not putting anything on Rate My Professors anymore, where it really would be much more useful to everybody. That's my opinion part. What I want to ask you is this. In order to do the student survey that I'm required to do, they've got to hand me a packet of student evaluations. But they are not by contract allowed to use the student evaluations they sent me in the last 4 years. Those are off limits. They cannot be used in an evaluation. So what can they use? Maybe they can use you, if they've asked you yet, or I can give them permission to use all the Rate My Professor evaluations. I got like 141. They can look at those. So I'm just wondering what they're going to do, and I want to talk to this guy. I have to, but are you being asked yet? That's my question for an evaluation.
I don't think I have.
Okay.
I haven't either.
Okay. And the evaluation that you made.
Sorry, I was gonna say, I think it's usually toward the end of the semester.
Right, but see, this is different. This is my personal evaluation, okay? And they're doing it now, which is fine. I don't care. I just don't want to get stalled here in a process that doesn't seem to be completely working. Okay. So if you have not yet been asked for an evaluation, when you do get the request, read into it and see if you think it's coming from the administration or if it's coming from the department chair of biology. The department chair of biology would be the one that's doing my evaluation, okay? And the administration, that's the throwaway one. Okay, I don't want you to throw away the other one. If you're not sure which is which, I don't want to be involved in your evaluation, of course. But if you're not sure which is which, do them both if you get them both. Okay, so you answered my question. They're doing nothing yet except sending me emails telling me to get done. Any questions?
So just to be really clear, we're not using. Are we using Proctorio for?
No,
Okay, thank you.
that's clear as I can be. You want me to use it? Tyler?
Yeah, what was that?
Oh, I just responded because you lit up. Your tile lit up.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I guess I was just gonna say no Proctorio.
Okay. Yeah, we already decided we're not going to use that in this class. So many things can go wrong with that. I keep hearing it. It's like I don't need that. The first time I gave a test online in this class, not your class, the one before, everybody started screaming. I mean, my email lit up. Fortunately, I had given everybody my email like you have it too. And they were saying, no pictures, no pictures, no pictures. If I hadn't known what was going on because of that, we wouldn't have got it solved. It was a simple fix. I had to find there's one folder hidden away and it needed to be published. And then they had all their pictures. But with Proctorio, there's so many different things that can go wrong. I don't know if I'd know how to fix them. And I don't want to. Okay, what else? As always, I'll stay till the end. Usually, some people do have some questions. They sort of wait until the others leave. But that's going to do it for today. It's a short day. Take advantage of it. Okay, I know I will. I've got to finish making that test stuff yet.
I've got a question for you, Charlie.
Okay.
When it comes to the lecture reviews that you're doing, like a short, I guess you're going to do a quick stream of it. When does that occur?
Oh, first we do our class, okay? And like today, there's time yet to go, okay? However, when in a normal classroom situation, we have a lecture, then we have a lab talk, and then all the students do their own thing in the lab. You're there to answer questions and help them out. But there's all this free time, which is nice, okay? For us, though, we can't fill the free time the same way. And although I'll be here to answer questions for you. And what I'm going to do is after the normal lecture and the normal lab, offer people the time to go over, review the lecture material that we had before. You can stay for all of them. There'll be about 4 of those, 4 days. Or you can stay for none, or you can pick and choose the topics that you think are giving you the greatest amount of trouble. I think it really should help your score. Okay?
Excellent. Thank you, Charlie.
So the latest you can like log on to the test is 2:30, right?
2:30 is what I did last time, I believe. So yes, that's fine. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I know in my heart some people are afraid to start, and they just sit there frozen, and then it finally gets to 2:30, and they got to do it, and there they are. I can tell you the names of the people that did that last time. I watch who's taking the test and how far into it they are. And some of the people weren't there, and at 220, 225, but there they were. They showed up. Everybody took it. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Charlie.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks,
I
Charlie.
work on Thursday. I'm off at 2, so I'll probably be on it and start taking it like at 2:25.
Well,
But-
I just said you could do it at 2:30, so you're fine.
Cool. Just making sure.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Bye.
Have a good day, man.
Okay, Susan.
Have a good night, Charlie. Thank you.
Okay, you too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Evan.
Hey, Charlie, I actually had a question.
Sure.
You know what the synergist and the antigen, I can't say it. You know,
Antagonist.
antagonist muscles. For the synergist is like some examples like the teres major and the latissimus dorsi.
Yes.
What about for the antagonist ones? Are there any? Can I have some
Yeah.
examples of those? I'm
Biceps and triceps.
Okay.
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 Vastus medialis, vastus lateralis.
Okay, so they work separate, oppositely. Okay.
Now, some muscles that work opposites can at times work together, and then they could be used as a synergist pair as well. They won't hurt you because they work both ways. So whichever way, well, the muscles in the forearm, the extensor carpi radialis and extensor carpi ulnaris. If I tighten both of them, I flex my wrist. I turn my wrist up. Okay. But if I only move one, then this is going to adduct, going towards the thumb side, and this is going to abduct. Sounds the same, I know. So,
And that's antagonist. I can't talk. But is that the opposite then? Because one's working and
Yeah.
one's not?
so if I ask for, it's going to be multiple choice first off. So you're not going to have to come up with the pairs. I do, and it's only a couple that I'm going to do that on. But if I asked for of the extensor carpi radialis, if I asked for a synergist, you could give me the extensor carpi ulnaris. If I had extensor carpi radialis and it turned out that I asked for an antagonist, you could still give me the same
Right.
muscle, because it depends on how you're using them. If you, for instance, if you can see me, right?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay, the sternomastoid muscles. If I work them both at the same time, I turn my head down. They're synergists. But if I only work one, I lean my head. And I work one, and then the other one works the opposite way. So these are both synergistic and antagonistic. I'm not going to try to fool you on the test. Don't worry.
Okay, but like another example of antagonistic is like the biceps and the triceps, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well,
They're
thank you so much.
always antagonistic.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too, Dana.
Hey, Charlie, I had a question on the additional terms list. I was looking at iliacus, and iliopsoas, and everything
Okay,
I looked at.
okay, here's the deal. I can answer your question without listening to it. I'm not going to ask you anything I didn't go over well. I'm not going to ask
Okay.
you anything that I feel I didn't go over well. Not you don't get to make that choice, but I didn't go over iliacus well, did I? I didn't go over iliopsoas. So no, it's not going to be there.
Okay. Thank you so much. Well, have a great day. See you
too, Ryan.
Thursday.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a good day.
Okay, Saya. See ya.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.